as needed. So first, just kind of a little marketing slide here. You know, we're of course encouraging all our customers to upgrade from NetWare to Open Enterprise Server on Linux. And as we'll go through some slides later here, that you can really position yourself ahead of the pack. And as you look at the stability of our SUSE Linux Enterprise Server, it's really top-notch in the industry, and we continue to see very high market penetration with Linux moving forward. So something to keep in mind as NetWare goes end of life here in about a year. And I know many customers have already made the move, and for those who haven't, we think this is the best move for your organizations. So what's new in Support Pack 3? Of course, with our Novell SIFS product, which allows you to log into your Open Enterprise Server without the Novell client, which is something we see more and more organizations moving to, especially as they do Windows 7 rollouts and they may not want to have the thick client. We're continuing to invest in Novell SIFS. We've added NTLM version 2 support, and which is kind of the native authentication in Windows Vista and Windows 7. So that makes it much easier to deploy, and you don't have to go change the settings like you did in the past. We continue to increase the performance there with performance gains anywhere from 3 to 12%, depending on what type of operations you're doing. We've added support for Windows 7 offline folders. So if that's something that your organization uses, you can have the OES server on the back end of that work with that, and added some additional cache settings that can help tune this further. Another thing that we've done with our dynamic storage technology, many of you are familiar with this. It gives you the ability to have kind of a primary and secondary storage where you can basically put those files that are not used as often on a cheaper storage platform, and save the really expensive storage for those files that are accessed all the time, and it enables you to have quite a bit of cost savings. So we've added support for that with our SIFS. Previously it was only supported with the NCP client, and of course you'll continue to get cross-protocol file locking with dynamic storage technology in the mix. And then maybe I'll just point out one last thing on this slide with AFP. We've continued to make this more scalable, more performant. We know that the Apple desktops and laptops, and now we got iPads and what have you. Apple is becoming more and more important in the business world, and Novell is one of those few companies that gives you that native AFP support. And with this last OES2 SP3 release, we had some comments from one of our beta customers that really hits this thing hard, saying that this surpasses what you would get even on a Mac server. So that was good progress that we've made there. Moving on to the next slide, domain services for Windows. Many of you may be familiar with this, but basically this allows your OES server to look just like a Active Directory domain. And so many organizations have applications that require AD authentication, and if you enable your OES server with DSFW, your application would not be able to tell the difference that this is not actually a real AD server. And we've added some additional functionality just to make this easier to deploy, easier to make it so that you're, no matter where those users are in the tree, that they can be added to a single domain. Whereas in the past, you sort of had to create, a domain per either partition, which made, things a little bit more difficult. So we've we've made some good progress there, and we continue to see, you know, people that want to deploy domain services for Windows. You know, some companies don't like Active Directory, you know, for various reasons, and so this gives a good alternative for customers who are looking for that. Moving on to the next slide, NSS, of course, our file system that we had with NetWare and we continue to have with Open Enterprise Server. We've continued to invest there and make this file system even more scalable and performant. You can see some of the statistics there on some of the performance increases that we've had with our latest support pack. And then we've added several new management improvements. As you know, with OES Linux, when these different services like CIFS or iFolder, DNS, DHCP, when they log in, they use a proxy user to log into eDirectory. And the way that we had previously had this was that each service had their own proxy user. And so you can imagine if you're running, you know, multiple services on one box and multiple servers in the tree, you would have a lot of these proxy users out there, and you know, that just causes extra overhead, extra administration. So we've simplified this in OES2 SP3 so that all those services by default will be configured to use one proxy user. And then along with that, per your password policy, as those passwords need changed, that can be set so that that automatically happens in the background. So you don't have to worry about managing these you know, these passwords for all these proxy users. And then we also have some tools where if you deployed, you know, OES2 with an earlier support pack and you want to sort of consolidate these different proxy users into one, we have tools that allow you to do that as well. So that makes things a lot easier to manage. With NSS and auditing, we added the ability to track IP addresses. So previously we had, you know, the ability to be able to track users that logged in, but in cases where maybe a password was stolen and you needed to know, you know, specific IP addresses, we've now added that ability. And then Linux user management, we've added some stability and performance improvements there. You can see that on the slide. I won't go into that into too much detail, but just making that perform better and easier to manage. And one big thing with our service location protocol, which gives you the ability to find services on the network. So for example, you know, if I log into iManager and I put in the eDirectory tree, SLP would be used to say, well, this eDirectory tree, you know, correlates to this IP address on this server. And many of the OES services and NetWare services, if you used NetWare in the past, was able to look things up through SLP. The problem that we had was that when we moved this over to Linux, those SLP entries were not persistent, and so if you you know, restarted the SLP service or had to reboot the server, it would have to come back and sort of go out to the network and re-register and find all these services again, and sometimes that could take quite a while and could make some network lookups not work properly. And so some people were sort of waiting and still running SLP on NetWare while you know, we got this persistence working on Linux. So with SP3, we've added persistence. Basically what we do is we back up all those SLP entries, and so those automatically get registered once the the server or the service gets restarted. And then we also added the ability for the DAs to communicate with each other, which makes things really nice if you had services over a WAN link and you weren't able to access those. And so that's actually an additional thing that we didn't have with NetWare. So there's one question here that I see coming up on the chat window. Is there still the 8 terabyte volume limit with NSS? And the answer to that is yes, there is still that limit. We are looking, well, with OES11, that's a release coming out later this year, we will have done away with the 2 terabyte partition limit, which was one issue, where if you wanted to go up to 8 terabytes, you had to munge, 4 2 terabyte partitions together. So that hurdle will be over with OES11, and then I'll talk more about some of these feature packs that we're doing in the future, but we're also looking at ways to get beyond that 8 terabyte limit in the future, but we're not there yet. Okay, moving on to this next slide, just quickly wanted to call out here that if you are, in the process or looking to upgrade from NetWare to Linux soon, we have a lot of different resources out there, best practice guides, free training, support offerings that you can get. I'd encourage you to go out to novell.com/upgrade and check out those offers. And you can also go to that OES2 info URL as well, which has a little blog entry that I put up with a spreadsheet that gives you URLs to all the different trainings, white papers, best practices guides, sort of all in one consolidated spreadsheet. So a lot of good information out there, and just wanted to point that out and be something good for everybody to look at. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is the next major version of OES called Open Enterprise Server 11, and we are addressing the #1 request that we've heard from our customers, which is, we really want to get on SLES 11 as soon as possible. It's got a lot of new performance benefits, life cycle, hardware support, and that is what we are doing to meet that address by doing Open Enterprise Server 11. And just wanted to go through a couple slides. You may have seen these through some of the Sledge presentations in the past, but just want to point out here that from IDC that has done some research on this, that SUSE Linux Enterprise Server has the lowest average unplanned downtime. If you compare that to Red Hat, Solaris, Windows Server, it really is a very robust platform that you can run your mission-critical workloads on. And then just another slide here showing the trends in the server operating system growth. Linux still continues to be a market leader here with 19% growth overall. So that's the forecast, for the next few years here. The next slide, slide 14, this kind of gives you just a little roadmap of where we're going with Open Enterprise Server 11. We're going to introduce something new called feature packs. And basically what we're trying to do is be a little more agile in delivering new features to our customers. We've heard the feedback that customers don't always want to wait 12 or 18 months before getting new features. And so what we're doing is OES 11 is going to ship, and then every 6 months after that, we would add feature packs, which would be able to deliver new features. And you're not going to see every single component be in the feature pack, but you're going to see different themes around each feature pack and certain areas that are hit. So, for example, with OES11 Feature Pack 1, there's a big emphasis on domain services for Windows and putting a lot of features there, and also around new management utilities, things like automating Linux user management so that you don't have to even know that it's there, DS repair for Linux. We've heard loud and clear that not everybody likes to, use the NDS repair with, 20 different switches. It can be sort of difficult to manage, so bringing that back from NetWare to Linux. Adding, Nagios monitoring, you can already install that today as part of Sledge, but giving our customers some specific scripts that allow you to monitor each of the OES services. And then also, mobile iPrint and some SUSE Studio support, and we'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. And then you would see, with the next feature pack, we would, have some other areas like cluster services and adding some additional support with the POSIX file system and dynamic storage technology, some of those things. So just, I know there's a lot of people on the phone here, but the feedback that I've gotten is that, this is something customers are happy to see, that we are able to, deliver these features more agilely. So hopefully this is something you can look forward to, and if you have any feedback on that, I would love to hear it. And we would still continue to do our bi-monthly patches. So as many of you know now, every 2 months we deliver critical bug fixes out in our patch channel, and so this would not replace that. We would still continue to do those bug fixes, but this would just add the ability to get these new features in the channel and make it very easy to deploy in your servers. And then we would still continue to have our support packs, but those would be, rather than doing them about every 12 months, the support packs would come about every 18 months, and then they would include, media updates, with all the new drivers and, all of that type of stuff. So that's kind of the direction of the, support packs and new features there in a nutshell. And I just see a question here. There are plans to create a Sledge OES appliance to run on a VM. And yeah, the answer to that is yes. And we got a slide here that will talk a little bit more about that here in a minute or so. So just wanted to point out here in this next slide, domain services for Windows. This is one of the areas that will add a lot of new things in Feature Pack 1. Some of those are things like bidirectional trust. So right now you can do a cross-forest trust if you set up an AD domain on your OES server, and you can do a trust to a regular AD server. But this would allow you basically to go the other way, where the AD domain could also trust the OES server. So this would allow your Windows users to access, the OES services. And then another thing there would be the ability to post-install domain services for Windows as well. So right now, if you're going to install it, you basically have to do a new server, where in the future we would give you the ability to just take an existing OES server and then add, the AD domain support on top of that. So those are a couple things, and then be able to support this through a Mac user, authenticating in to that DSFW domain. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so this next one should address that question about, are we going to allow you to create OES appliances? And for those of you that aren't familiar with SUSE Studio, I would encourage you to go check that out at susestudio.com. Basically, it allows you to go out and build a Sledge Appliance right there on the website. So you would choose your packages that you want to install. It would go and sort of do this install of it on one of the servers that we have here at Novell, and then it would actually allow you to test drive that configuration right there online. And then if you don't like it, you can go back and make changes. If you do feel like has all the packages and everything that you want and it boots properly, then you would be able to have the ability to say, okay, now create me an image of that server, and I want this in a VMware format, or I want this as a USB image or physical hardware. It's got a lot of different ways that you can create that image, and it's really cool. It's really cool actually. And so what we will add in Feature Pack 1 is the ability to do that same thing with Open Enterprise Server. So you'd have basically the Open Enterprise Server installation sources out there on SUSE Studio. And if you want to go build an iFolder appliance or an iPrint appliance, and you only want to install certain packages, then you'd be able to go out there and configure that. And we would have some templates of different scenarios out there, and then we'd also allow the community to add templates out there that people could use as well. So this is something that we're looking forward to. As we've talked to some analysts, from IDC about this, they really like it as well. They think it'll be a huge win for everybody. So that's coming down the road here shortly, and we're hoping to get a tech preview of that actually available maybe in the next 3 months or so. So watch for that. And then one other thing that we're doing is doing a solution where you can upgrade NetWare to Open Enterprise Server 2 or Open Enterprise Server 11 on the same piece of hardware. And the way that we're doing that is we're taking some of the existing migration scripts and we run that against the NetWare server. We save off the settings, we save off the eDirectory database, and then we create a SUSE Studio image of the Linux server, and then basically boot from that. So you put that on whether it's a USB stick or another partition on the server. You boot from that and then run the scripts again to put all those settings from the NetWare box onto the server. So when it comes back up, it basically has the same eDirectory, the same IP address, server name, et cetera, that NetWare had, and it can make and it can all be done once you get the initial sort of setup done. You can do these servers in about an hour. So this is something we've heard from a lot of our large customers that they'd like the ability to do, and we have some consultants that are working on that right now. So this is another thing that you'll probably see a tech preview out maybe in another 2 or 3 months, and then have some additional support after that. Sorry, was there a question? Okay. Is everybody still able to hear okay?
Yeah, I think you're still coming through okay. I did have one that came through. There was just some questions about SLE11 SP1. I think it was back on a couple of your slides. There was just a question on if you could go over that a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah. So this first OES11 version that we will ship will run on SLES 11 SP1. So I don't know if that was the question or not. And then, of course, later as SLES 11 SP2 comes out, we would obviously support that, a few months later. So hopefully that answers the question. Okay. And then there's also a question here I see online: will the Open Workgroups suite rev at the same time? And yes, we will plan on, if you want to buy the Nows suite, you will be able to get the latest versions once we ship this. Okay, moving on to slide 17. And just go quickly here because we got a few other things I want to talk about. iPrint, that'll be another thing with Feature Pack 1. The big thing here is the ability to print from any mobile device. So it will basically be as easy as sending an email where you could put that printer address in your email address book, attach whatever you want to print, and it would send it to the printer. The printer would do all the rendering and be able to print that out for you. So this will be a huge thing that a lot of our customers have been asking for. And actually, if you didn't want to use the iPrint client on your desktops, you could use this the same type of solution on your desktops. And then we're also adding with Mac and Safari support for iPrint, so the ability to upload and download drivers with these browsers that we've sort of had limited support with in the past. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is the Novell file sharing features. One of the things that our PM team is very conscious about is the ability to deliver something that's new and innovative for our OES customers. And we've always sort of been in the file business. I mean, we sort of invented this in the 80s, the ability to share files over the network. We later had, the directory integration, and we've done things with, iFolder and dynamic storage technology. And so we've always been in the file business, and we're going to continue to be in that business. And it's been a strength of ours, and we're going to continue to innovate there. And as we look at this next slide, a lot of people are deploying Windows 7. It's sort of, it's kind of shiny and new. It looks nicer, but if you think about the way that you work with files, a lot of it's really the same. It hasn't really changed a whole lot in the last 20 years. And so what can we do to become, more productive with the way that we work with files? And, as today many of you are aware of, we have some cool new things with, Dropbox and Box.net, some online, social and file sharing capabilities and backup. There's some cool things that you can use there, but it's really a, consumer-focused, and it's not really feasible for most enterprises. A lot of them can't scale beyond, 50 users. They don't have all the, the security constraints and things that you would get with an enterprise solution. And then on the right side, you've got some of these teaming and social collaboration tools, your SharePoints and different things like that. And these are these are great, but they're a little bit disruptive because you have to move your files in there, and you're still probably going to be working with files on your desktop as well. And so you got it's a little bit disruptive because you're working with things in different places. And then you have in the middle there kind of the normal map drive experience that we've all used for the last 20 years, and it sort of works, but hasn't really evolved too much as of late. So what we want to do here is be able to give you the best of both worlds, and give you some of these new social capabilities that you would get with some of these cloud-based services that are more for the personal space, and then also give you the ability to work with your files where you normally work with them. And if I took a survey here and said, where do you work with your files the most, I think most of you would probably say Windows Explorer, and some of you probably use the the file system on the Mac, but really most people work with files just right there on the desktop. And so what we want to give you the ability is some new innovations around working with the files in your native habitats, which is Windows Explorer or the Mac Finder interface, but also give you the ability to work with these files on mobile devices, because that's becoming increasingly important. So if you look at the bottom part here, this thing we're calling Neutron would give you the ability to, work with files on these mobile devices and give you sort of this unified home directory that would allow you to see all your files, whether they're on an OES server, whether they're on a Windows server, or maybe a NetApp filer or somewhere else in the cloud, being able to bring all those files together and put them all into this unified home directory. And then in the middle there, as you can see, we have this Neutron file server, which kind of be deployed as an appliance that runs on Sledge 11. And this would kind of be the middle that would connect to all your different back-end servers. And also, have the databasing and do the indexing, the versioning, archiving, sync, notifications, different things like that. So you can kind of think of this as sort of an iFolder on steroids, where you're going to get some new capabilities that I'll talk to you about in a minute. Being able to work with your mobile devices, your native Windows habitat, and then being able to get that data on any back-end server that you have, whether it be your traditional OES servers or Windows or other file systems. So moving to the next slide, this really calls out some of the end user benefits. Many of you are familiar with iFolder, which is a great tool that allows you to sync your files to many different desktops. It backs them up on the server. It does some really cool things, but one problem with it is that it doesn't integrate with your traditional home directory that you may have had on NetWare or OES. So you're sort of you may have data in two different places. With Neutron, we will give you those iFolder benefits, but we also would integrate this with the home directories that you're traditionally using, whether that be on OES or NetWare or Windows. So it would bring all those things together. Another great thing about this is it would give you a merged view of local and remote files. So you may have some files that you want to sort of just have as a map drive that are really just sitting on the server, and you may want to have some servers that are downloaded locally to that mobile device. And it would allow you to do both of these and sort of have this merged view of all the files there. And in addition, you would be able to have salvage capabilities, bringing back deleted files, archiving of different versions, auditing, all those great benefits that you would have with a traditional file system. Another great thing is having a unified search index. A lot of our customers use our Quick Finder, and it's a very cool tool that allows you to index all your files, and it would only show you those files that you have rights to. Unlike if you put a Google search appliance in your corporation, it would index everything, and then it would show you everything in a big list. And then if you clicked on something and you didn't have rights, it would say access denied. Well, you don't really want to see all of that other stuff. You only want to see the stuff you have rights to. So we would still give you the ability to have that great Quick Finder ability, but one place Quick Finder falls short is that it just does it server per server, where with Neutron, it would be able to index all those files from all the different backends that you have set up and give you that unified search. Another great capability is giving you the ability to share files outside of the organization. So you'd be able to add users that are not part of your local organization if that's the policy that your company allows. Another thing is doing some more intelligent searching. Many of you may be familiar with, if you use iTunes, they have this feature called Genius, and it basically looks at your whole music collection and says, well, based on the music that you have, I think you would be interested in, purchasing this other type of music because it's, similar, has a similar genre or whatever it might be. What this new brownstone technology that we have would give you the ability to take that same type of paradigm but to files. So if you're working on a presentation and you want to know, hey, I'm working on this Neutron presentation. What other presentations are like this that are out there, from people that that I'm sharing files with, and it may bring up, something from marketing, something from sales, different things like that. So you could really get this ability to find files that are like the ones that you're working on. And then, in addition, giving you the sort of this Twitter-like feed where you'd have the ability, if somebody updated a file and you're interested in following those updates, sort of give you this little feed that would show you a comment that they could put on a file and give you a link that goes directly to that file, so making it very easy to find that file. And then, as we talked about before, all the mobile device support, being able to work with these files on whatever type of mobile device you might be using. Okay. Now there's a few, let me just try to finish a couple more slides here, and then we'll try to answer those questions here at the end. So as I mentioned before, not only do we do the mobile devices, but this thing is really going to integrate into, the Win 7 File Explorer. So there's just a draft mock-up that you could see where, you kind of have this Twitter feed at the bottom. You'd have up at the kind of the left there, you'd see like recommended files, files shared by me, files shared with me, things of that nature. And then moving on to the next slide. So what we really come to is, in the past, a lot of it was just, where do I store my files? But we shift to the new focus of it's not only where you store your files, but it's really how do you make use of these files? How do I become more productive with these files? And that's really what Neutron wants to address for our customers. And then this last slide here, this is kind of an overall roadmap of where we're going. You can see there that we shipped OES2 SP3 at the end of last year. Sledge 10 SP4 is coming out in April. As in the past, it always takes us a little bit of time to test that with OES, make sure it doesn't break everything, make sure the scalability is good and everything. So we're looking at supporting that probably in July. So if you try to apply that early, you'll see a conflict come up that warns you not to apply that until we've fully tested that. But that will be coming later this year as well. And then OES 11, that will come probably end of the summer time frame is what we're looking at there. And then, as mentioned before, we would have these these feature packs coming out every 6 months after that. And then the next line there with Neutron, we'll be doing some technical previews of this. So if you're interested, we may have one out as early as next month, but those are going to be coming soon. We'll definitely have a technical preview at BrainShare, which is coming in October. If you're interested in being involved in beta testing this or getting this preview, you've got my email address at the beginning of the deck. Please email me, and we'd like to get you involved there. But we look at releasing that probably first or second quarter of 2012 is when Neutron would come out. And then way out there in the future is the next version of OES called Wasatch that would be running on Sledge 12. So I know we've just got a couple of minutes here. That was a lot to go over there. Let me see if I can answer some of these questions that are coming in through the chat window here. So the question was, how about iFolder? Any improvements planned? The answer to that is we will still support iFolder with OES11. It will still be there, but all the new development is going to be going on Neutron. So Neutron is really the the upgrade path that will come to iFolder down the line. It will have the iFolder capabilities, but much more. And then the question here about iPrint. The version of iPrint, I don't have the exact version number, but this iPrint mobility will be out in feature pack 1 of OES11. So again, that would be 6 months after we release OES11. So you're looking at sometime in the first half of 2012 on that. How does this compare to Vibe? This is more based on working with files. There's a little bit of socialness to this. Vibe is really a little more of a higher level, collaboration, where maybe more competing more in the email type space, where this is more just more of working with files. So, but yeah, there is a little bit of overlap there. Will Sledge 10 SP4 work with OES2 SP3? I think I answered that. That will be coming this summer. No fix to bugs in the current iFolder client. No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we would still fix some of the critical bugs that we see there. And will these slides be available for download? I think Q is going to make those available for download. If not,
yes.
Yeah, you will. Okay.
Yeah, I'll
great.
be sure to send that to everyone who's registered for this.
Okay, and then will Neutron be able to see files in Vibe? Yeah, what we're actually thinking with Neutron is that we would have some different connectors. So some people have expressed interest in pulling in files from GroupWise or pulling in files from Lotus Notes or teaming, different things like that. So the plan is that we would be able to have connectors to different things. I can't give you specifics on that right now, but that is the direction we're moving. What version of OES2 is supported on Sledge 11? So the answer to that is OES2 is supported on Sledge 10. This OES11 release that's going to be releasing end of the summer will be supported on Sledge 11. Okay, I think Q, I think that we're about out of time here, so not sure if there's any last questions we have or how you want to wrap this up.
Let's see. I think we've got them all answered here. Let's see. Yep, it looks like everything that came through was answered.
One last thing I see here is, will there be an easy way to upgrade from OES2 to OES11? The answer to that is yes. You'll be able to just do an in-place upgrade to that. We're also looking at possibly a way to do an automated upgrade, but that's something we're still investigating. And one other thing I want to point out with OES11, this OES11 is 64-bit only. So we're now at the point where 64-bit has been out quite some time. Some of our competitors have already moved that way, and so we're investing our resources in providing better quality, new features, and sticking with 64-bit moving forward. And there will also be migration tools available as we've had in the past. So if you want to migrate from NetWare, for example, those tools would be available as well.
And it looks like there was one other one that came through about. It just says you're comparing Neutron with iFolder. How does it merge net storage features? That's my current solution for iPads.
Yeah, so we will have, I mean, one of the complaints we've had is that net storage is this old, browser thing, and it hasn't, looks like it's 20 years old. So Neutron will have a browser-based
file access, so there'll kind of be a new version of that coming out as well. It won't be exactly the same as net storage, but there will be a browser-based file access.